The arrival of the twins. The world watched in silence as the massive spaceship descended from the dark sky. It was not like any ship humans had seen before. No fire, no smoke, no loud engines. It floated down slowly, as if the air itself carried it. The people standing near the landing site felt a strange pressure in their chests, like something powerful had entered their world. Soldiers surrounded the area, their guns aimed, their fingers tense on the triggers. Scientists stood behind them, whispering to each other, taking notes. Cameras from news channels recorded everything. This was history. First contact. Then, the ship's surface shimmered, and a door appeared where there was none before. A deep humming sound filled the air. The tension grew. And then they stepped out. Two towering figures, at least 8 feet tall, their bodies covered in smooth silver-blue skin that seemed to glow faintly. Their eyes were large, pure black, and unreadable. They had no visible mouths, no noses, just a face that seemed alien and ancient at the same time. Their arms were long, their fingers slightly curved like sharp claws. The soldiers took a step back. Even the bravest ones felt fear. The aliens stood still at the entrance of their ship, scanning the crowd with their dark, empty eyes. No one spoke. No one dared. The president's voice crackled through a speaker. "We welcome you to Earth. We come in peace." The aliens did not respond. A team of trained diplomats, dressed in formal suits, stepped forward. They had studied 100 ways to greet an alien race. They bowed, waved, and even tried a hand sign that meant friend in several cultures. The aliens did not react. Scientists quickly whispered among themselves. Maybe they don't understand gestures. Maybe they don't communicate like us. Maybe they don't want to talk. The military officers grew impatient. Are they a threat? One of them muttered under his breath. Their fingers twitched near the triggers of their weapons. The tension in the air became dangerous. And then, among the hundreds of important people, a young researcher named Daniel Carter took a step forward. Nobody noticed him at first. He was not a soldier. He was not a leader. He was just a scientist, a small part of the research team. He had no weapons, no authority. But something inside him told him this was his moment. His heart pounded as he walked past the soldiers, past the diplomats. The crowd murmured in confusion. The president's voice barked over the speakers, telling him to stop, but he ignored it. He kept walking toward the aliens. The two alien twins turned their heads toward him at the exact same time. A shiver ran down Daniel's spine, but he did not stop. He raised both his hands slowly, palms open. No threat, no fear, just curiosity. The twins did not move. For a long moment, nothing happened. The world held its breath. And then one of the twins lifted its arm. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Soldiers raised their guns. The president shouted something, but Daniel couldn't hear it, because the alien's long, glowing fingers reached out toward him. Daniel's instincts screamed at him to run. His brain told him to back away, but something deeper inside whispered, "Stay." He held his ground. The alien's fingers touched his forehead. At that moment, Daniel's mind exploded with light. A rush of emotions, thoughts, and strange voices filled his head. Not words, not pictures, something beyond language. A feeling, a connection. For a split second, he felt everything the alien felt. A deep sadness, a heavy loneliness, a warning. And then, it was gone. Daniel stumbled back, gasping for air. His head spun, his vision blurred. The alien lowered its hand, stepping back. The other twin watched silently. The crowd erupted into chaos. Scientists shouted. Soldiers yelled for Daniel to step away. But Daniel knew one thing for sure. The aliens had spoken. Not with words, not with sound, but through something far deeper. And he was the only one who understood. The first contact. The world was still reeling from what had just happened. Scientists whispered frantically. Soldiers remained tense, and the news cameras zoomed in on Daniel Carter, the young researcher who had just experienced something no human ever had. He stood there, frozen, breathing heavily, his mind still echoing with the alien presence. The two towering alien twins did not move. They remained at the entrance of their ship, their unreadable black eyes locked onto Daniel, as if waiting for something. "Carter, step back. That's an order," a military commander barked. Daniel barely registered the voice. His hands were trembling, his skin cold. He had felt something when the alien touched him. It was not just words or images. It was deeper than that. A raw, unfiltered emotion. Loneliness, grief, fear, not for themselves, for Earth. The realization made his blood run cold. The soldiers weren't waiting anymore. Heavy boots thundered on the ground as a security team rushed toward Daniel, ready to pull him away. But before they could reach him, the second twin moved. It happened so fast that nobody had time to react. The second alien raised its hand and slammed its palm against Daniel's chest. A surge of invisible energy exploded from the touch, sending every human in the vicinity flying backward. Soldiers crashed into the ground. Scientists tumbled over their equipment, and even the armored vehicles groaned under the force of the unseen blast. Daniel didn't fall. He floated. A brilliant white glow surrounded him, lifting him off the ground, suspending him mid-air like a puppet held by invisible strings. His arms hung limp at his sides, his head tilted back. His mouth opened in a silent scream, but no sound came out. Inside his mind, everything shattered. The connection. Daniel was nowhere. He was everywhere. The physical world faded away, replaced by an endless expanse of swirling lights and colors beyond human comprehension. He was weightless, his body no longer his own. A powerful force surrounded him, warm and cold at the same time, whispering, screaming, singing. Then, through the storm of energy, he felt them. The twins. Their presence wrapped around his mind, sinking into the deepest parts of his consciousness. And for the first time, he understood. They were not speaking to him. They were showing him. Visions crashed into his brain like waves against a fragile shore. A planet, vast and beautiful, bathed in the light of twin suns. Towering structures of shimmering metal, stretching toward the sky. A civilization far older than humanity, advanced beyond measure. And then, fire. Destruction. The twin suns were blotted out by dark ships, monstrous and endless. Beams of energy rained down, reducing cities to dust. Screams filled the air, not in sound, but in feeling. An entire race wiped out, erased from existence. The only survivors, the twins. They had fled, the last of their kind. Running, hiding, searching for refuge in a universe that had turned against them. And now, they were here, on Earth, seeking help, returned to reality. Daniel's body slammed into the ground. The force of impact knocked the air from his lungs, and his vision blurred. A loud ringing filled his ears, his head splitting with pain. Soldiers surrounded him instantly, their weapons aimed at the aliens. Commanders barked orders. Scientists screamed for readings, data, anything to explain what had just happened. But Daniel didn't hear them. He struggled to sit up, his hands digging into the dirt. His skin tingled, the ghost of the energy still coursing through him. He turned his head toward the twins. They were watching him, waiting. Daniel swallowed hard. His throat was dry, his mind still racing with the visions they had shown him. "They're not here to hurt us," he croaked. His voice was hoarse, weak. He forced himself to stand. "They're running from something. Something worse." The military commander's expression darkened. Running? From what? Daniel licked his lips. He knew the answer. He had seen it. "Their world was destroyed," he said. His heartbeat thundered in his ears. "And whatever did it is coming." A heavy silence fell over the landing site. The president, watching from a distant, secure location, turned to his advisors with a grim expression. Get every intelligence agency on this. Now. The soldiers hesitated, their fingers tightening around their triggers. The scientists scribbled furiously, their voices tense and hurried. And the alien twins, they simply stared, waiting. Because now, Earth was involved, and there was no turning back. The unspoken warning. The weight of silence hung over the landing site. Daniel Carter stood in the center of it all, his legs trembling, his mind still echoing with the visions the alien twins had shown him. The destruction, the fire, the endless void of sorrow that had swallowed their world. They weren't conquerors. They weren't invaders. They were refugees, and something was hunting them. The military didn't care. The soldiers surrounding the twins tightened their grips on their weapons. Red targeting lasers danced across the aliens' chests, but the twins didn't react. They didn't even blink. Daniel wiped the sweat from his forehead and turned to the military commander. "You need to lower your guns," he said, his voice hoarse. "You don't understand. They're not the enemy." The commander's cold eyes locked onto him. "We don't know what they are, and until we do, we treat them as a possible threat." Daniel shook his head. "They warned me. Something is coming." "Coming from where?" a scientist asked, stepping forward, eyes full of desperation. Daniel hesitated. He had seen the ships in his vision. Dark, monstrous, endless. He exhaled sharply. "I don't know, but we don't have much time." The president's voice crackled over the speakers. "If these beings can communicate, we need to know everything. Now." Daniel turned back to the twins. The aliens had remained motionless, their eerie black eyes fixed on him. It felt like they were listening to the humans argue, waiting to see how they would react. Daniel took a step closer. One of the twins tilted its head slightly, as if considering something. Then, slowly, it raised a single elongated finger and pointed toward the night sky. Daniel followed its gesture and looked up. At first he saw nothing but the vast, star-filled sky stretching across the horizon. The moon hung in the distance, its pale glow illuminating the landscape. But then, a flicker. A tiny distortion in the darkness. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The sky seemed to shimmer, like a ripple moving across the surface of water. It was barely noticeable, but it was there. Something was hiding, watching. One of the soldiers cursed. "Did you see that?" The scientist gasped. "That's impossible. We had satellites scanning this sector. There was nothing there before." Daniel's stomach turned. The enemy was already here. The hidden fleet. Panic spread like wildfire. The president's voice shouted over the radio for immediate satellite imaging. Scientists rushed to their equipment, hands flying across keyboards. Military commanders barked orders to scramble fighter jets and activate global defenses. And through all the chaos, the twins remained still. Daniel realized something. The twins weren't afraid. They knew the enemy was watching. And they had expected it. His pulse pounded as he turned back to the soldiers. "You need to let them speak." The commander scoffed. "They don't have mouths. How the hell are they going to?" Before he could finish, one of the twins moved. It took a single step forward, its massive form gliding smoothly across the ground. The soldiers flinched, their weapons raised higher. Then, without warning, the alien placed a hand on Daniel's shoulder. A shockwave of energy erupted from the touch. Daniel's body went rigid. His mind burned. And suddenly, he wasn't on Earth anymore. A mind not his own. Daniel found himself standing on a barren landscape, beneath a blood-red sky. The air was thick and heavy, filled with the distant echoes of screams. He turned. In the distance, the twin suns of an alien world flickered dimly behind heavy black clouds. Towers of twisted metal lay in ruins. Bodies, thousands, maybe millions, littered the ground, their silver-blue skin scorched and lifeless. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He knew this place. It was the homeworld of the twins. The vision shifted. The sky darkened further as something massive descended. A colossal fleet of obsidian-black ships blocked out the suns, their spiked hulls gleaming with a sinister glow. Hundreds, thousands of them, moving as one. Daniel felt the terror of the twins, the panic of their people. Then, the slaughter began. The ships opened fire, cities crumbled, the ground split apart. A deafening, inhuman roar echoed across the landscape, a sound so unnatural it made Daniel's soul shudder. And then, the vision ended. Daniel gasped as he snapped back into reality. He staggered, barely keeping himself from collapsing. His breathing was ragged, his chest heaving. The soldiers were watching him, eyes wide with confusion. The scientists looked terrified. The president's voice came through the radio again, demanding answers. Daniel forced himself to speak. "They wiped them out," he said, his voice shaking. "The twins' people, all of them, gone." A heavy silence fell over the group. One of the scientists swallowed hard. "Who?" Daniel clenched his fists. He knew the answer. He had felt their presence, their overwhelming hunger for destruction. He had seen their monstrous fleet. They call them the Voidborn. The name alone sent shivers down his spine. The military commander narrowed his eyes. "And what do they want?" Daniel turned to the twins. Their black, soulless eyes met his. And then, they spoke directly into his mind. They want everything. The chase begins. The world had changed in a single moment. Daniel Carter stood amidst the chaos, his mind still reeling from the overwhelming vision. He had seen a world burn. He had felt an entire race die. And now, Earth stood on the same precipice. The Voidborn were coming. And worse, they were already here, watching, waiting. The soldiers, once steady and confident, now gripped their weapons with uncertainty. The scientists whispered frantically to one another, trying to make sense of the impossible. The president, still linked via video feed, barked orders at his advisors. But Daniel knew that orders wouldn't matter. Earth's defenses were nothing compared to the monsters that had wiped out the twins' civilization. The alien twins remained where they were, their soulless black eyes locked onto Daniel. They had chosen him. But why? Before he could ask, a screeching sound tore through the air. Not from the speakers, not from the radio. From the sky. The hunter arrives. Every head snapped upward. The sky, clear just moments ago, began to twist. A ripple, faint at first, like a drop of ink spreading through water. Then it grew, warped. And then something stepped through. A black mass, shifting like liquid, coiling and unfolding itself into a jagged form. It had no solid edges, no defined shape, just an ever-changing nightmare of spikes, shadows, and writhing limbs. Its head split apart in 3 directions, revealing a gaping maw filled with dripping, razor-sharp teeth. The first Voidborn had arrived. The soldiers panicked. Guns fired. Bullets ripped through the air. The creature didn't flinch. The bullets passed straight through it, as if it were made of mist. And then, without warning, it moved, faster than any human eye could track. 1 second, it was in the sky. The next, it was among them. A soldier barely had time to scream before the creature's arm stretched unnaturally, piercing straight through his chest. He dropped without a sound, his body drained of all color, as if the very life had been pulled from him. The others reacted too slowly. Another soldier tried to retreat, but the Voidborn's tendrils shot forward, wrapping around his limbs. He convulsed violently. And then, he was gone. Nothing left but dust. Panic exploded through the landing site. Scientists ran. The military scrambled for heavier weapons. The president's voice turned to static as the transmission cut off. Daniel couldn't move. His body was frozen in terror. The Voidborn turned toward him. It had no eyes, no face, but somehow, he knew it was looking right at him. Then, a whisper, not from the world, but from inside his own mind. You are marked." His blood turned ice cold. The Voidborn lunged. The twins strike back. Before the creature could reach Daniel, a blinding blue light erupted between them. One of the alien twins had moved. In the blink of an eye, it appeared between Daniel and the Voidborn, its massive hand stretched out. The air crackled with energy. A pulse of raw power exploded outward. The Voidborn screeched, its form twisting violently as if in pain. It stumbled back, its jagged limbs flickering. For the first time, it looked afraid. The second twin raised both hands. The sky itself rippled. The ground trembled. A powerful hum filled the air, vibrating through Daniel's chest. And then, the Voidborn was gone. Not dead, just erased, as if it had never existed. The silence that followed was deafening. Escape plan. Daniel collapsed to his knees, gasping for breath. His entire body shook. He had never felt this kind of fear before, this absolute certainty that death had been only seconds away. The military commander was shouting orders, demanding answers. The scientists scrambled to scan the area for anomalies. But Daniel knew this was only the beginning. The twins had protected him. But why? One of them turned to him, its black eyes filled with something close to urgency. It raised a long, clawed finger, pointing toward the horizon. "We have to run." Daniel didn't hear the words, but he felt them, inside his bones. And then, as if to confirm his worst fear, the sky split open again. This time, it wasn't just one Voidborn. It was dozens. The creatures poured through the rift, screeching, their ever-changing forms flickering in and out of reality. The soldiers opened fire again, but it was useless. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. Earth wasn't ready for this. "We have to move," someone shouted. Maybe the commander, maybe a scientist, maybe himself. It didn't matter. The twins grabbed Daniel. Not roughly, not to hurt him, but to save him. And in a single moment, they vanished, gone in a flash of blue light, as the world behind them erupted into chaos. The betrayal. Daniel Carter's world had changed in the blink of an eye. One moment, he was standing in the middle of chaos, soldiers screaming, the sky ripping open, nightmare creatures flooding through. The next, everything was gone. No sound, no air, no gravity. Only darkness. And then, light. Blinding, burning, blue light. Daniel gasped as his body slammed into solid ground. His lungs ached. His mind swirled. He had no idea where he was or how far he had traveled. He barely had time to think before he felt a presence beside him. The twins. The alien brothers stood over him, their soulless black eyes watching carefully. Their massive frames were still, their strange glowing skin pulsing with energy. Daniel struggled to sit up, his hands pressing against a cold metal floor. He turned his head and realized he was inside their ship, a refuge in the stars. The room was dimly lit, the walls covered in pulsating lines of glowing blue energy. No visible controls, no buttons, no screens, just smooth alien metal that hummed with life. Daniel took a shaky breath. Where are we? The answer came directly into his mind. Safe. For now. The voice wasn't a sound. It was a feeling. A thought. Something deeper. Daniel turned to the twins, his heart still hammering. You saved me. One of them tilted its head slightly. Yes. Daniel swallowed hard. The others, the soldiers, the scientists, are they alive? Fighting? Daniel clenched his fists. He could still hear the screams in his head. The Voidborn had come in force. Earth's defenses weren't ready. No one was. He turned back to the twins. We have to help them. The aliens exchanged a silent glance. Then, for the first time, one of them spoke aloud. A deep, resonating voice filled the air, not from a mouth, but from within the ship itself. They will not listen. Daniel felt a shiver run down his spine. What do you mean? The second twin stepped forward. Its glowing hand touched Daniel's forehead. And suddenly, he saw the human threat. The vision crashed into Daniel like a tidal wave. He saw the military base, the same place he had been standing just moments ago. But it was different. The soldiers weren't just fighting the Voidborn anymore. They were regrouping, reorganizing, setting up defenses, not against the enemy, but against the twins. And then, a face appeared in the vision. A man in a military uniform, older, cold eyes, a scar running down his cheek. General William Stroud, one of the highest-ranking officials in the Global Defense Force, and he was giving an order. Daniel heard it clearly, echoing through his mind. Find the aliens. Capture them. Kill them if necessary. The vision ended. Daniel staggered back. His breath came in short gasps. What? His voice shook. Fat, that's not possible. The twins just saved my life. They saved everyone's lives. The twins didn't respond. But Daniel already knew the truth. Humanity didn't trust what it didn't understand. And right now, the twins were seen as just another threat. The real war hadn't even started yet, and humanity was already making enemies out of its only hope. The trap. Daniel paced inside the ship, his hands running through his hair. His thoughts raced. We have to warn them, he said. We have to tell them what's coming. If they don't listen, they will not listen. The twins spoke together, their minds linking in a single thought. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then what do we do? Just hide while Earth is torn apart. A pause. Then, finally, an answer. We find the source. Daniel frowned. The source. The ship hummed softly. The lights pulsed, shifting patterns, and suddenly, a holographic image formed in front of him. A star map. At the center of it, a dark void. A hole in space, pulsing with an ominous red glow. The twin closest to him reached out and touched the image. The darkness expanded, revealing a massive, shattered planet. A dead world. The birthplace of the Voidborn. Daniel's heart pounded. This is where they come from. Yes, and it is waking. Daniel stared at the map. He didn't understand everything, but he understood enough. The Voidborn weren't just attacking randomly. They had a purpose, a leader, a hive. If there was any chance to stop them, they had to go to the source. Daniel nodded. His fear hadn't faded, but now it had a direction, a purpose. He turned back to the twins. Then let's go. But before they could move, the ship shook violently. A deep boom echoed through the walls. Then another, and another. Daniel's stomach twisted. He knew that sound. Missiles. The humans had found them, and they were already attacking. The war nobody expected. The ship shook violently as another explosion rocked its metallic frame. Alarms blared. Strange, melodic chimes rather than harsh sirens. The glowing blue veins along the walls pulsed erratically, like a heartbeat under stress. Daniel stumbled forward, barely catching himself on the cold, smooth metal of the ship's interior. He turned to the twins, panic surging through his veins. We're under attack, he shouted. They know. The thought echoed in his head as the twins moved in perfect synchronization, their towering figures gliding effortlessly toward the control center. The air around them hummed with unseen energy. They were calm, too calm. Daniel's pulse pounded in his ears. We have to get out of here. The humans are firing on us. They will not stop. Another explosion. The ship tilted sharply, sending Daniel sprawling across the floor. A massive impact. The lights flickered. The ***, humans weren't just attacking them. They were trying to destroy them. The strike force. Outside, the sky burned. A fleet of sleek black fighter jets soared above the clouds, releasing wave after wave of missiles toward the alien craft. The ships sliced through the air, their engines roaring like thunder. At the front of the formation, a larger command aircraft hovered ominously. Inside, General William Stroud stood with his arms folded, his sharp eyes locked onto the alien ship. Direct hits confirmed, one of the pilots reported through the comms. No damage. Stroud's jaw clenched. Increase firepower. I want that ship down. But sir, what if Carter is still inside? A voice hesitated. Stroud's cold stare didn't waver. Then we'll recover what's left. The next wave of missiles wasn't just explosive. They were EMP charges. The twins fight back. Inside the alien craft, the air crackled as the first EMP blast struck. The ship lurched, the glowing veins along the walls flickering wildly. Daniel saw the twins tense. They were losing power. Panic gripped him. We have to. Before he could finish, one of the twins raised its hand. A sudden pulse of energy blasted outward. Daniel felt the air around him shift, as if reality itself had just bent. Outside the ship, the air shimmered, and then the entire vessel vanished. The escape. One moment, the massive alien craft was in the sky, under heavy fire. The next, it was gone. The fighter jets veered off course, their targeting systems scrambling. Inside the command ship, General Stroud's fists clenched. Where the hell did they go? The radar technician shook his head, eyes wide with disbelief. I don't know, sir. They just disappeared. No explosion. No debris. Nothing. Stroud's expression darkened. They're still out there. He turned to his officers. Find them. A secret hideout. Daniel gasped as the world around him twisted. His stomach lurched, his vision blurred. Then suddenly, they were somewhere else. The ship had reappeared inside a massive cavern, hidden deep beneath a mountain range. The ceiling stretched hundreds of feet above, jagged and ancient, with glowing blue minerals embedded in the rock. Pools of shimmering water reflected the light, casting eerie shadows. Daniel staggered forward, trying to catch his breath. What just happened? One of the twins turned to him. We moved. Daniel's eyes widened. Teleported. Shifted. He shook his head. It didn't matter what they called it. They had escaped, but not for long. The military won't stop, he said, his voice hoarse. They think you're a threat. We are not. Daniel let out a bitter laugh. Try telling them that. One of the twins stepped forward, placing a large, glowing hand against his chest. They do not fear us. Daniel frowned. What? The second twin turned its head slightly. They fear what we know. The realization hit Daniel like a punch to the gut. Stroud wasn't trying to kill the twins because they were dangerous. He was trying to kill them because of what they had seen, because of what they could reveal. The Voidborn, the source, the coming extinction. Daniel exhaled sharply. They're trying to cover it up. The twins didn't answer. They didn't have to. The final warning. Daniel took a deep breath, his mind racing. The war had already begun, but the humans didn't realize who the real enemy was. The twins had chosen him. That had to mean something. He turned to them. We have to stop this. We have to get to the source before it's too late. One of the twins nodded. The other reached out, and suddenly, a new image appeared before them. A colossal structure, floating in deep space. A ruined planet, cracked open like an egg. At its center, something stirred. Something woke. A deep, inhuman growl rumbled through the cavern. Daniel felt it in his bones. The Voidborn were not just invading. They were summoning something. Something older than the twins. Something that had devoured civilizations before. And now it was turning toward Earth. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. We don't have much time, do we? No. Outside the cavern, a storm was gathering. The Voidborn were coming. And so were the humans. The final stand. The storm had arrived. Deep in the hidden cavern, Daniel Carter stood beside the alien twins, staring at the pulsing image before him. A ruined planet. A cracked husk floating in deep space. At its core, something stirred. Something alive. The Voidborn weren't just attacking Earth. They were summoning their master. The Ancient One. A being that had devoured civilizations before. A being that had left the twins' homeworld in ruins. And now, it was coming. Daniel swallowed hard. His hands clenched into fists. We have to stop this. One of the twins turned toward him. Not alone. The betrayal revealed. Outside, the military had found them. General William Stroud stood near the cavern's entrance, watching as soldiers surrounded the hidden alien ship. His face was unreadable, but his orders were clear. Move in. Secure the technology. Capture Carter. A soldier hesitated. Sir, what if they resist? Stroud's voice was like steel. Then kill them. The soldiers advanced, weapons raised. But the sky tore open. A voidborn rift erupted above them, black tendrils slithering through the air like the limbs of some unseen monster. The first creatures emerged, shifting, screaming nightmares of jagged limbs and gaping maws. They didn't hesitate. They attacked. The soldiers panicked, opening fire, but bullets passed through the Voidborn's bodies like smoke. Stroud's eyes widened. He had planned for a battle against aliens. Not this. And for the first time in years, he felt fear. The battle begins. The cavern shook as the first Voidborn creatures descended upon the human forces. Screams filled the air. Soldiers fired blindly, their bullets useless against the monsters. Daniel ran forward, his breath sharp in his throat. We have to stop them. One of the twins raised a glowing hand. Not them. Him. Daniel turned back to the vision of the source. The pulsing cracked planet. The thing waking inside. The Ancient One. If they didn't stop it, nothing would survive. Not Earth. Not the humans. Not the twins. Daniel's jaw clenched. Then let's go. The twins moved toward their ship, the glowing blue veins along its walls flaring to life. Stroud's voice rang through the cavern. Carter, stand down. Daniel turned, breathing heavily. Are you insane? Look around. We're not the enemy. Stroud's face remained hard. You don't know what you're dealing with. Daniel took a step forward. Neither do you. A Voidborn screeched, launching itself toward Stroud. A soldier pulled the trigger, too late. But before the creature could reach Stroud, one of the twins struck. A wave of blue energy blasted the Voidborn backward, dissolving it into nothing. For a moment, there was silence. Stroud looked at the twins, then back at Daniel. His jaw clenched. Go. Daniel hesitated. What? Stroud's voice dropped to a growl. I said go, Carter, before I change my mind. Daniel didn't wait. The ship's door opened, and he ran inside. The twins followed. And then, they were gone. The journey to the source. The ship tore through space, faster than anything human technology could understand. Daniel's stomach lurched, his vision blurred. But in moments, they were there. Floating in the darkness of deep space, a massive cracked planet loomed before them, its surface scarred, its core pulsing like a dying star. Daniel exhaled. So this is it. One of the twins nodded. It wakes. The ship moved closer, navigating through floating debris, ruins of long-dead civilizations, remnants of planets lost to the Voidborn's hunger. And then, the shadows moved. The first Voidborn ships emerged, black as the void itself. Their jagged hulls pulsed with a sickly red glow. They had been waiting. The final battle had begun. The last stand. The alien ship dived through the enemy fleet, weaving between monstrous warships. Blue energy flared from its hull, repelling enemy attacks. But the Voidborn were endless. Their ships swarmed, blocking every escape. Daniel gritted his teeth. We can't fight all of them. No, but we can end them. The twins extended their hands, and suddenly, The ship accelerated, straight toward the source. Daniel's heart pounded. Wait, what are you doing? Ending this. The realization hit him like a punch. They weren't trying to fight the Voidborn. They were going to destroy the source itself. If the Ancient One never awoke, the Voidborn would be powerless. But it was suicide. Daniel's breath caught in his throat. No, there has to be another way. There is not. The ship plunged toward the core, dodging enemy fire. The planet cracked further, its pulse growing erratic. The Ancient One was waking. A single massive eye began to open, deep beneath the planet's surface. And then, the twins spoke one last time. Thank you. A surge of pure energy erupted from them. Daniel was ripped from the ship. His body hurled backward, thrown across space, just as the ship collided with the core. The end of the Voidborn. The explosion was silent. A blinding wave of blue energy burst outward, spreading across the entire sector of space. The Voidborn ships collapsed, their forms disintegrating as the energy swept through them. The planet imploded, its dying core collapsing in on itself. The Ancient One never fully awoke, and then it was over. Daniel floated, weightless, staring into the void. The twins were gone. But so was the greatest threat the universe had ever known. Return to Earth. Days later, Daniel awoke in a military hospital on Earth. He was alive. Somehow. The world was in shock. The Voidborn were gone, and humanity had a chance to rebuild. General Stroud stood beside his bed, arms crossed. You survived. Daniel exhaled. Yeah. Stroud looked at him for a long moment. Then, finally, he spoke. Tell me what happened. Daniel closed his eyes. The twins had given everything. And now, it was his job to make sure no one ever forgot. Epilogue. The whisper in the void. Far across the galaxy, in a place no human had ever seen, a ripple moved through the void. The Ancient One was gone, but something deeper stirred beneath the surface of the universe. Watching. Waiting. And one day, it would return.